be doing a reaction here to Dharma. There's always drama on the internet. And it's another aging duelist here, a YCS Champerino. He disagrees with Josh. Josh says Yu-Gi-Oh! Bad game. He didn't say that. But TLDR, he said that. But he didn't say that. But he kind of said that. Triff says Yu-Gi-Oh! Good game. And we all know that Yu-Gi-Oh! Is a game. Truthfully.
If Konami banned every single floodgate in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players will still find a way to complain. They would complain that there's not enough floodgates, even though we just banned it. So then if Konami brings back floodgates, people will complain that there's floodgates.
Huh?
So then Konami will ban them again, and then Yu-Gi-Oh! Players will complain that there's too many negates. So then Konami will go ahead and ban every single interruption in Yu-Gi-Oh! Then Yu-Gi-Oh! Players will complain that there's not enough interruptions in Yu-Gi-Oh! So they'll bring back the interruptions. Then people will complain that there's not enough hand traps. There's too many hand traps.
What
in
more
so
do
Yu-Gi-Oh!
you
will
want
ban all the
from
hand
me?
traps. And then players will complain.
The memes
that they
have
can't go
more
second.
audio and volume
so then
than
Yu-Gi-Oh! will ban every
the
single
than Triff
interruption.
speaking.
Then what are we gonna do? Keep banning good cards until we're left with Giant Soldier of Stone and Celtic Guardian?
Yo, based?
You can never make Yu-Gi-Oh! Players happy. Yu-Gi-Oh! Players will complain every single year, no matter what. Dating back to when I had a full set of hair, Yu-Gi-Oh! Players still complain.
When? Oh my god, editor, you don't have to kill him like that.
And this is always the case. You can never make Yu-Gi-Oh! Players happy. In 47 matches I've played at 3 YCSs, guess how many times I got hit with the
Okay, before he moves on to the next point here, he's kind of just using like a kind of sort of slippery slope fallacy, isn't he, right? So like, criticizing Yu-Gi-Oh! Is futile because people will simply criticize it more even if you adjust according to those criticisms. And then from that secondary point, more people will just criticize about those points. And then, you know, like he said, you're just lowering the format, the power of the format lower and lower and lower until you're basically playing with like vanillas again. So from a community feedback perspective type thing, in terms of like, you know, power of the format and like complaining, you sort of have to like, from a game design perspective, decide like, okay, what is a adequate amount of power, that is justifiable in the game, right? And how far down does it, I'm making this, this shouldn't be a graph to be fair. The power level of the game is like up here. And then if you lower it to like down here, then you kind of have to ask yourself like, okay, are we done with the complaints? There comes a point where feedback is valuable, but at which point do you have too much feedback, right? So there's a balance between, yeah, there's too many floodgates in the game, there's too many nod games, Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't fun to watch because it's solitaire, go first, coin flip, etc., etc. You have to give give some leeway because there is good points for why Yu-Gi-Oh! Isn't fun or enjoyable to watch from the advanced modern perspective, and there's legitimate criticisms that can be afforded to that. I just think that, you know, yeah, people are always going to be unhappy. People are always going to complain. But you need to, like, as a game designer, as a company, you have to be able to differentiate between loud minority and silent majority. That's always, like, the hardest thing, right? In anything that involves a community, there's always going to be complaints. There's always going to be, like, you know, criticisms, feedback. It's just how much of that is justified and how much of it is just general toxic negativity. There is a point, there is a power level, there is a number, there is a percentage somewhere in the level of where Yu-Gi-Oh! Is in terms of its power, where it's okay and adequate, despite the fact that there will be complaining. So yeah, people are going to complain no matter what. But it's like, again, where's the silent majority? Where's the loud minority?
Gate deck once in top 8 at YCS Anaheim once. So if me, the player that could have won back to back YCSs for the first time in Yu-Gi-Oh! History is telling you to stop dooming and glooming about floodgates when I lost to a floodgate in top 8, that was the one time I got hit with a real floodgate in 47 matches. Droll and D-Barrier do not count as floodgates. There is something that you
Excuse me? D-Barrier does not count as a floodgate?
should be prepared for. If you're getting hit with
There's no way. There's no way. Oh my god. Where's the classic? With all due respect. There it is. Okay, guys, but with all due respect, how are you not prepared for mine at this point? It's a little ridiculous to not have a well thought out plan when entering a tournament. How are you not prepared? How are you not prepared? It's a good point, you know? I don't understand this logic. And I'm gonna just, like, bluntly admit and say that I'm a very good analyst. When I was casting for the game and stuff and going to YCSs, I think I'm very good at asking questions and very good at having players express themselves on camera and tell people how they built their deck, how they came up with their strategies, what they thought about their plays during games. So I'm very good at deciphering when people speak but maybe mean another thing. I don't know what Triff is really trying to say here. I think he's like arguing that because it isn't a card that just plants itself on the field and sticks down like a Mystic Mine, that it's like therefore not a floodgate because it only lasts a turn. It feels like that's kind of what he's saying. And as someone who's not currently in tune with the current meta in the TCG, I feel like I just will have to probably say first and foremost, again, I don't know exactly how this format is playing out because I don't play the TCG. However, I have played the TCG for long enough to tell you that for me personally, why I quit playing Modern is because format after format, year after year, you play a meta deck, you play the best decks in the format, you have decent mirror matches, some of the format is good, some of the back and forths are really fun and enjoyable, but every single format, without fail, the community collectively says, this format would be perfect if X, Y, and Z wasn't legal. And then the next format, they hit those cards when they're no longer problems, and then everyone in the community says, this format would be perfect if they just banned A, B, and C. After so many formats, and after so many years of playing Yu-Gi-Oh! The TCG, when I keep dealing and playing in a game where the side deck is 50% blowout cards or 50% floodgates, or there's some like really auto-win dumb interaction, I've decided to stop playing the TCG because it is no longer fun to keep saying, well, the format is good if we ignore all of these problematic cards. Droll, D-Barrier, you know, the FTK go first auto-win combo that Triff lost to himself, they exist too often and too much in the game that it takes away from the skill of Yu-Gi-Oh! And from the actual interactivity of the game that I enjoy. Sure, the best players keep winning, the best players keep topping, and the best players will always do well in the game. Variance-wise, if you play enough Yu-Gi-Oh!, if you're a good player and you play perfectly, you're still going to win about 80% of your games, right? But there is, in my opinion, too much variance. There are too many games that are non-games. There are too many games where, sure, if I play 100 duels, I'll win 80 of them. I still think that 20 is too big of a number. Just throwing out random numbers and stats there. Who knows what the actual ratio is these days? I think that cards like Droll, D-Barrier, historically, throughout all of the history of Yu-Gi-Oh!, Maxi, and Master Duel, I think they are too common and too often in the game where I just don't want to sit down for 15 minutes and lose 20 out of 100 games completely out of my control. I think lower power formats and alternative formats have less of that. It's a card game. There's always going to be variance. So that's why I personally don't play. And I feel like Triff arguing that there is no problem when almost every feature match at the YCS, most recently in Anaheim, was a significant portion of non-games is a little bit unreasonable for him to argue.
With Joel and be like, I hate this is a floodgate, ban it. Do you have any idea? Any Yu-Gi-Oh player that been trolled or debarriered more than me? I've probably been hit with Droll and debarrier more than any human being in the universe ever. Dating back to my pendulum days. And they are not, like, if your deck cannot deal with them, that's a you problem. Play Yummy Mint so you can deal with both. So the dooming and glooming about floodgates is just...
Play a different deck is unironically not a bad argument. I know it sounds like really on the face, like almost like the Jesse tweet of like, with all due respect, you know, how are you not prepared at this point? If you hate a certain card so much that it makes you not want to play the game, maybe it is like better to just pick a different archetype. Maybe you should, like, there are other decks in the format you can play. To some extent, that is correct. That is true. But the issue is, like, there are too many floodgates that auto-win generically against most decks, irrespective of the archetype you play, right? That's kind of the issue, you know? Like, yeah, how do you prepare for D-barrier? I mean, some decks lose harder than others to D-barrier, to droll, etc., etc. But I just think they're way too common and too prevalent to really use this argument, I feel.
It's not real. People will complain regardless. This is the best Yu-Gi-Oh format we've ever had. I'm not just saying this because I won. You want to know why I won 2 YCSs and top 8 in the other 3 back-to-back-to-back? You want to know why? Let me tell you why. Because I have so much fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh! This format that even when I lose, I win. I'm having so much fun. I played 1,000+ matches, 1,000+ matches this season. From August.
Okay, so now on like a positive note here, Triff is the type of guy who just loves the game, and it doesn't matter how shit the game is, he will just enjoy the game, right? It's like Yugioh and Mastodon. Mastodon ranked is garbage. It sucks. I don't know how anyone enjoys that stuff. But he will make it feel like and seem like, from how much he just loves the game, how good it is, right? There are just some people who just love something, and I respect that. I really do. I wish I could have that love and passion for something, no matter how crap it is, like Triff does for the TCG and Yugioh does for Mastodon. But ultimately, I feel like they are kind of a minority in this regard, right? I do think that there's a bit of there's, you know, for the average person who, you know, isn't unemployed, and can just play thousands of hours of Yu-Gi-Oh, there's only so much time in the week to be able to dedicate to your hobby. And if like 15% of the games in your hobby is just you sitting there waiting to like pass your turn because you've been drolled or debarriered, it's like, you can understand why some people just don't want to do that and go through that.
To now, since Yummy came out, I might have cleared 5 figures numbers, 10,000 maybe matches, more matches than I could think of. And do you want to know why I play that many matches? Because I have never had more fun playing Yu-Gi-Oh than Yummy format, ever. That's why I've been winning, because I've been enjoying playing Yu-Gi-Oh so much. So rather,
look how much he loves Mastodon. Apo not getting banned was the worst mistake this game has ever made. A lot of games that had potential to be interesting are ruined because the new decks can also summon it really easily. Last format was already not great, and somehow it got worse. And to make matters worse, I'm pretty convinced the best deck of the new format is Malice again. Alright, well, the day Yugioh cracks over Mastodon is, you know, hell freezing over. So, give it a couple weeks, I suppose. Triff's gonna give us the same equivalent for TCG.
than you guys complaining about every little thing forever. Why don't you guys just shut the hell up and enjoy what actual is the best format we've ever had? No one is playing Ryziel fucking Protoss. What are you? People are complaining about floodgates, like with the exception of Alex, my boy that beat me in top 8. Congrats, but like who else? No one is
except the guy who knocked me out from the tournament. Who's playing that?
playing Protoss. What are you guys realistically, like you watching this video right now? Do not over exaggerate. Really think about this. At the last YCS you went to, how many times were you hit with Mjolnir? How many times were you hit with Protoss? Fossil Dyna does not fucking count as a floodgate. You simply activate any hand trap. You could have 20 hand traps in your deck. You hand trap Gallon Granite. That deck, Mitsurugi cannot protect the Gallon Granite. It doesn't have dual drive cross to protect the Banshee Surge, right? You simply use any hand trap ever created. This is not
him saying it's not a floodgate because it's beatable with any generic card doesn't change the fact that it's a floodgate. That it's not a floodgate. Like, Mystic Mine isn't a floodgate if you draw MST. You know, like, what is... I really respect Triff, but he's not very articulate, is what I'll say. He's not the most eloquent when it comes to describing concepts and things like that.
Like just draw the out, bro. You have 20 fucking outs in your deck. I made the judgment call for these YCSs that FTK style decks don't exist. That's why I enter with no.
He's just explaining it really badly. Like, in some ways he's correct. Yeah, like if you study the actual play pattern of the deck, it doesn't actually have a way to interact with the protection of the granite. So any form of disruption on granite will just sort of, you know, negate the aspect of being floodgated. But ultimately, that doesn't change the fun aspect of the game. and it doesn't really change the fact that we are putting yourself in a position of just draw the out. And floodgates really do entice that type of gameplay of just draw the out. Like that is how floodgates work. They are draw the out situations. Yeah, sure, you might have 20 outs in your deck, but they're not interactive cards. They're not like fun gameplay related cards, you know, for the most part.
Hand traps. But a lot of you entered with hand traps. If you simply play 20 hand traps, none of these FTK stuff is a problem. I have no problem with the format right now. I actually love the format. And I would love all floodgates to be banned. I would love all floodgates to be banned. But guess what? Whether they're banned or whether they're not.
Okay, so what is the point of this video? We agree, right? So what are we talking about here? Yeah, the floodgates should all be banned. I would love if all the floodgates should be... Okay, cool. End the video. What is there to discuss? The thing that he's going to continue discussing is that despite the fact that there's still floodgates in the format, the game is still fun, the format is still enjoyable, which, you know, is fine and understandable for his perspective, but I can probably hazard a guess that there is a significant portion of the player base who maybe isn't on the brink of quitting, but maybe are on a bit of a hiatus right now. Maybe they're on a bit of a break. Maybe they're waiting until the next ban list. Maybe they're waiting until the next set. Maybe playing other games. Yu-Gi-Oh can be pretty seasonal in that regard. So I mean, we'll just have to see how like the next YCS numbers are like. But ultimately, you know, I think like minimizing the problem because there are outs to the problem I just don't think is logically sound.
Now, Ben, I will win regardless. It is still the most fun I've ever had, and winning makes it even more fun, but that's not why. It's because I've had so much fun this format that I'm winning. You guys should try it. Instead of dooming and glooming, why don't you just play Yu-Gi-Oh and have fun? And you'll actually recognize that this format...
I mean, Josh is playing, no? That was, like, Josh made a whole video because he's watching the games at the YCS, he's playing himself, and he's doing the Worlds race. So, I feel like Josh has a point, no? If anyone has something to say, it would be him, right?
Is the best it's ever been. And if you think Habakiri is too...
You think it's like Stockholm Syndrome? He's like, bro, trust me, it's fun. Bro, you need to believe me, it is fun. Bro, you have to, like, I promise you this format's fun. You gotta try, bro. Like drugs, you know?
Broken.
Just don't be depressed.
Have you read like what these cards do? Have you read Holisu last format? Have you like if you think Habakiri is too broken, maybe have a look at your best cards in your deck. If you think that Habakiri is too broken, Habakiri is a great card. It's an incredible card. Yes, and we actually would not even be having this conversation right now about like, wow, Yami should never bridge into Mitsu. If I didn't win Lima, no one would even be having this conversation right now. No one would be. If you like. No one would even be having this conversation about Habakiri too broken if I didn't fucking win Lima. All right? Let's just say that loud and clear if it wasn't fucking obvious already.
Well, actually, Triff, the Farfa viewer duel room managed to put Habakiri in every deck in the game, so,
I've shaped every format for the last 3 years, by the way. Your favorite YouTuber gets their list from me, or they get it from someone who got it from me, or they got it from someone who got it from me. So how about instead we just recognize that it's just incredible Yu-Gi-Oh, and maybe you're the one that is not playing enough Yu-Gi-Oh to have a good time with it. Rant over, man. I just don't like the dooming and glooming. I really don't like it. It's the most fun I've ever had playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So if you guys just like think positively a little bit, you'll recognize it's one of the most fun formats we've ever had. Yu-Gi-Oh! Does not have a problem right now. The only problem Yu-Gi-Oh! Has is that it's too fun and it's taking away from my work time that I'm playing too much Yu-Gi-Oh! I should
wait, Trev has a job
a day for you guys, but I'm busy playing Yu-Gi-Oh! Because I'm having so much fun.
Isn't his job Metafy?
That's the only problem Yu-Gi-Oh! Has right now. It's too fun. Seriously. Just because I'll also tell you guys one thing. The media is not like, I'm not going to blame the Yu-Gi-Oh! Players for
wait, where are we going with this?
Yu-Gi-Oh! Has a problem because the top 8 just coincidentally had a lot of FTKs shown. But you guys have to understand that per round, there's...
I don't know if it's a coincidence. Come on. Like, with the whole change of the structure of YCSs and tournaments, giving credence to better play and better deck building. I don't know about better play, but definitely better deck building. For, you know, getting through 15 rounds and making it to top 8. I don't think it's a coincidence. Those decks got there because they have very consistent, very powerful combos that not a lot of decks can actually beat. Like, you can't really say this is a coincidence, you know? Like, yeah, don't get me wrong. Like, there are some shitty decks that win events, etc., etc. But it's not a coincidence that auto win combos and you know were the majority of Top Cut.
800 matches going on. So if the feature match has an FTK going on, but there's 800 matches around playing at the exact same time, but you look at the feature match like, yo, that feature match has an FTK. It's an FTK format. It's bad data. You're not looking at the 800 matches.
Okay, but the problem with what he's saying is he brings up a good point. First and foremost, representation and correlation are very different aspects, right? If every single person at a YCS enters the YCS playing Gladbeast, Gladbeast is going to top and win the event, right? Does that make Gladbeast the best deck of the format? No, it doesn't, right? Because the data is skewed there. But similarly, you could look at that from the complete opposite perspective of this, which is like, look how many other decks there are that aren't playing all these FTK auto win turn one decks, auto win turn one combos, but all of the decks that did make it to top cut are the few people who played the FTKs. Therefore, you could logically argue from that point that they topped because those decks are better, they're more powerful. And what's going to happen at the next event? People net deck them, people play them, people pick up the new powerful, broken, insane decks that win the game turn one. And then the data then skews towards more FTK decks, etc. being played. So yeah, like he has a point in the sense that it's not representative of the data, but now, because of the fact that those decks all did really well and topped and even won the event, it's because they're so good and so powerful. After 15 rounds of Swiss, you make it to top 8, your deck is really consistent. Your deck is really good. Do you see what I'm saying? So to say that it isn't a problem because not many people played it is sort of putting the cart before the horse, right? When it comes to analyzing the data.
100 matches majority.
Research methods 101.
Yummy Mitsu. Draco Tail was the most represented deck. Pure Mitsurugi, pure Yummy Mitsu.
I wish Draco Tail was the best deck, dude. We would have like actual fun interactive games. Holy crap, that deck is so good.
Shit like that. Like, that's like 70%, 75% of the meta. Then you're going to look at K9 Crystron as a minor part of it. Parizia Protoss is not even remotely in that conversation. Luna Light's up there too of a high played deck, which is not an FTK. You just hand trap them to oblivion. They never put up Liger or just kaiju them. Or like
Trev seems to think that if you have an out to a card, that card is not a problem, right? Like it really does feel like if you can stop a card, that card is not an issue. But like, yeah, you had to use a card to stop the problem. Therefore, it doesn't stop it from being a problem. Conceptually, it's still a problem, right? Like, just Imperm Zexal, right? Just Ash the Maxi.
Wusu, them, like Mitsurugi Kaiju. There's so many answers. Gorgon, Underworld Goddess. Like, there's just a plethora of answers. 90% of the meta, 95% of the meta is 0 FTK. They're all back and forth shit. So rather than complaining, build your deck to beat that 95%. And I would love for the other 5% to be gone because that just means my win rate just increases from 90% to 95%. I'm down. But the doom and gloom is why you guys are probably having a bad time. If you just recognize the problem at hand of the decks you have trouble with, just simply build your deck to beat them all. And you're going to have a great time doing it. Trust me. Because when you're winning, you're funning. Trip Gaming 2025.
Yeah, I mean, ultimately, it's a good point. I just think he did articulate that really badly. You know, if you lose to certain FTKs and combos and stuff, you can deck build around it. You can play other cards. You can play other archetypes and stuff. But it, again, sort of like it's not really dealing with the root cause, right? The problem, the root problem is like, okay, I can play a deck that doesn't lose to Droll, that doesn't lose to D-Barrier, but like, I have to. Do you see the issue? It's like those cards are so insane, so broken, so powerful. I am willingly opting to play a different deck and archetype because of how good those cards are. Like, do you see? Like that's that's proving how good those cards are. So anyway, like I said, I might be completely wrong on this. I don't play the current TCG format, but I feel like you don't need to play the current TCG format to really understand and look at these things like from a conceptual perspective, right? From a analytical point of view, right? You can still look at numbers, you can still look at theory and sort of understand and grasp what's being said without actually like, you know, having experience with the format. So I might not be the best person to talk about this, but I don't think it's a coincidence that this is all like, you know, such a problem that people are bringing up. Floodgates have existed for a long time in Yu-Gi-Oh! It's why I don't play Modern. But ultimately, you know, he is correct in the sense that there's only so much you can do in terms of complaining. At the end of the day, you either do what I do just don't play Modern. Or you deal with it and accept that there's going to be variance in your games. And that's really what it boils down to. Let's look at some comments. Winning equals perfect format, perfect game. Losing game sucks. What is Konami doing? I can already smell the reaction videos. You would have been a 4-time YCS champ if Yu-Gi-Oh didn't have a problem. Right? Cry laugh emoji. Yeah, but when a YCS top 8 is only decks with floodgates like Protoss, Barrier, Mjolnir, the people are going to start to copy them, and then the meta becomes Floodgate Turbo. We have to admit that Vanquish was holding the meta, and the pre-ban list meta was the best we ever had. I don't know why they hit Vanquish so hard, by the way. That was really surprising. If Yu-Gi-Oh doesn't have a problem, how come the finals didn't go past turn 2 without a timer? How come the opponent didn't even try to win on their turn in the final? If we watched the Super Bowl, NBA Final, the World Cup, and saw one team playing, and the other team not even trying because they couldn't do anything, what would that sentiment be? I think that people hate most about is the non-games. When the game consistently just outright concludes because of a floodgate, it becomes super boring and unsatisfying. That's why I love a deck like Dracotile branded, because there's no such interactions. Okay, even if you only lost one game to a floodgate, that's still one game too many. No cap, I swear I was not good enough to do Yummy. I just simply admit it's not my playstyle. I picked up Radiant Typhoon and have not been gone to a tournament where I have not topped since. A majority of the game I win first place. I struggled so much more when I had Yummy and I didn't top very often. Now I'm just having fun and topping. This is the best. Okay, I mean, sort of unrelated to the point. I'm glad you're enjoying Typhoon, though. Triff, I gotta admit, this is the most positive Yu-Gi-Oh video I have seen in years. Well, that's a good takeaway from this. It is a positive video. Anyway, yep, that'll do it. All right, thanks everyone for watching. That is Triff's React. Is he correct? Is he right? I think he has a lot of good points. I just think he's not really articulating them very well. And his personality is the type of personality that is very positive in general. He is a very hype man. He is a very positive dude. So he will sort of downplay problems because he is just very passionate. I get it. But I do think he's kind of missing the tree before the forest or whatever the term is. All right, bye-bye.